Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. It is January 29th in here with a coaching update as we have another coach leaving the Green Bay Packers. I don't want to say it's a surprise. We were hopeful he would stay because we talked about how important it would be to have this many former defensive coordinators in the room running your defense. However, it comes with the territory, obviously, as we have added, as we talked about Bobby Babich. So what we're going to do is give you that update on Derek Ansley leaving, everything we know there. Is there a chance he returns? Doubt it. We'll kind of talk about that. Obviously, Senior Bowl practice is getting kicked off again this afternoon. So we're going to be bringing you updates from that as the day goes on. I'll probably go live a couple of times throughout the afternoon with a few prospect reports, all right? Guys that are really flashing right now, guys that are kind of anomalies on our PTA board over in our Patreon group to kind of give you an idea. All right, here are the guys that are, hey, they're sticking out like a sore thumb. Probably somebody whose stock's going to be rising on down the stretch. And also, would it be a position of need for the Packers? We'll give you that stuff a little later today. But again, we're going to talk these coaching changes here. And we're going to give you an update, guys. Outgoing versus incoming. All right. Yes, we've lost Jeff Hafley, but we've also got, Bobby Babich coming in, or not Bobby Babich, but Jonathan Gannon coming in. Yes, we've lost this guy. We got this guy coming in. We're going to kind of reset the board for you. And obviously, there's going to be more coaching changes. The offensive side of the ball hasn't been hit yet. I think that's coming here real soon if changes are to be made. Before we get into it, if you would, do that YouTube stuff for me. Hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning into PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us a part of your morning. We're not experts. We are not insiders. We're not media members. We're fans just like you. It's fan-driven, ran by you guys. The chat, everything along the way. Patreon group. We're just creating a community talking Packers on a daily basis. So if you're looking for that type of content, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and click the bell icon. Jump in. The water is fine. So I see the chat is already filling in here. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Adam Block in the house. We got Cheesehead Murph. Let's see. We got Nick Mix. I love what Adam Block said too earlier. He said, good morning, nerds. Right. So I had to hit him with the nerd emoji. Yeah, we're football nerds. It's just the way it is. We got Nick McSwain in here, Professor Cakes, Joseph, Dr. Crutch, Chris N, everybody following in. Mike Berry, 2-0 for this. Good to see you. He says, buenos dias there, amigos. So we got, let's see here. Big B in the house. Good to see you, bub. Everybody following in. All right. Let's actually, let me get this real quick. We're already going to fall behind. I don't even know what the question is. This is probably scary. Probably shouldn't do this. All right, real quick. Chris has got a question before we get into coaching stuff. Clayton, when would we hear about any official cost-cutting measures? Banks, Gary, Hobbs, etc. It's kind of fluid, Chris. The date that I put on that stuff is around February 15th, and it doesn't mean that you would cut somebody, right? In terms of restructures, I always use that as the baseline, as the measuring date, I guess you could say, simply because that's when Aaron Jones, around the 15th of February, was Aaron Jones did his restructure. So if these guys are going to take a pay cut and restructure, it's probably going to happen sooner rather than later, around February 15th. However, if somebody's playing hardball, that may drag up to a little closer to free agency, right? Now, you got the deadline that you got to get under the cap and all that. I'm not concerned about them getting under the cap. You guys know how that goes every year. February 15th. I would be surprised if something happens before then. If it does, it's probably a sign that we might be kind of aggressive this year, right? If the contract restructures start to be reported a little bit earlier. So I would say February 15th is a good measuring date. So if that makes sense. So hopefully that answered your question there, Chris. All right, let's jump into the topic of the day. I got to run out and take care of some errands. So we're going to do this in rapid fashion. Get y'all out of here real quick. Like I said, we'll probably be going live a little later in the afternoon as well. So the big news of the day, breaking news, if you will. We talked yesterday on the show, how cool is it that you've got four former defensive coordinators in your defensive room. You got Jonathan Gannon, who's got defensive coordinator and head coaching experience, being your DC. You got Derek Ansley as your secondary coach. You now hired Bobby Babich as your passing game coordinator, right? And it was like, okay, he's going to be secondary coach, passing game coordinator. That was Derek Ansley's title, right? So it's like, wow, we got two former DCs kind of running that together. Spoke a little too soon, right? Also, you've got DeMarcus Covington, former DC, in the house as well. So you got all these guys with all this experience as defensive coordinators Awesome place to be, right? Well, we spoke a little too soon. As you can see here, Bill Huber had quote tweeted Aaron Wilson. Aaron Wilson's original tweet 11 hours ago says, defensive passing game coordinator Derek Ansley leaving the Packers coaching staff after hire of Bobby Babich to the same title per a league source. All right, so Derek Ansley gets win. Hey, and he probably heard from Matt LaFleur and Jonathan Gannon right off the bat, I would imagine. So this has probably been brewing, I should say, behind the scenes. So what you got is Derek Ansley finding out Bobby Babich is going to have that same title of passing game coordinator. Well, it probably feels like he's being passed up here, right? Now, is that good news or bad news? Time will tell. Let's talk about the bad aspect of this. With Derek Ansley now leaving, and again, Bill Huber just quote tweeted it, said, no surprise after Babich was given the passing game coordinator title. Now, the bad news is Derek Ansley has a really, really good rapport with the DBs in-house, right? Like Xavier McKinney. He coached Xavier McKinney at Alabama. Some people believe he was instrumental in recruiting Xavier McKinney in free agency to the Packers right now. Does that mean X is going to be mad and not play better? No. Does it mean X is going to leave? No, none of that, right? Applies. It's just, I think a strength of this defense was you had guys that were kind of in unison together and they had that background. Obviously Jonathan Gannon wanted to bring in Bobby Babich, and in order to bring in Bobby Babich, he needed to be the passing game coordinator. So is there a chance that Derek Ansley goes and tries to find another passing game coordinator job, right? Because you notice it doesn't say he was fired. It doesn't say he was relieved of his duty. It says he's leaving. Now, maybe we'll get more information uncovered as the day goes on. I don't know. But maybe this is Matt LaFleur giving him an opportunity. Hey, go try to get another passing game coordinator title. And if you don't, we'd love to have you back as a secondaries coach. Could be the case. Right now, behind the scenes, maybe Ansley feels a little frustrated about that news. Maybe he doesn't like the fact that they kind of bypassed him in this regard. But I think we would all agree down the stretch last year, the defense was not playing great football down the stretch. Right. So I think this is something that could be a positive. You're shaking things up a bit. Right. Again, I would love to have Derek Ansley back. Now, will this affect DeMarcus Covington? DeMarcus Covington has gotten defensive coordinator job interviews, right? Like he interviewed with at least Dallas that I remember. So notice his run game coordinator has not been replaced yet. Right. So as of right now, it seems like they're going to keep DeMarcus Covington in place as the defensive run game coordinator. Now, I haven't heard anything about Coach Ogabasi. If you guys have heard anything there, let me know. I would imagine he's going to go with Jeff Hafley to Miami. But the good thing that about this whole story here is that it was reported that Hafley actually met with. Now, they made it sound like they met in person. I don't know if they did. Maybe Hafley flew back to Green Bay to get some stuff or whatever and kind of wrap up the moving process of going to Miami. And he met with Matt. Maybe it was a conference call. I don't know. But it sounded like they sat down together, and Jeff Hafley, being the freaking awesome coach and man that he is, sat down with LaFleur and said, all right, here's who I'm thinking about taking. Would that put you in a bind? How do you guys feel about that? Rather than just going, I'm taking him, I'm taking him, I'm taking him. I love that they sat down and kind of put a game plan. It's probably going to work best for both of them. That's just awesome. That's an awesome working relationship. And I think that Matt LaFleur has done one hell of a job creating that across the league. That's why when you've seen Ben Johnson show his ass there with the post-game handshake and running his mouth all year long, that's why you've seen Peter Schrager report there's a lot of coaches in the league that didn't appreciate the way Ben Johnson treated LaFleur, because LaFleur has become highly respected. He's now the fourth longest tenured head coach in the NFL. He's 16th all-time in winning percentage in the NFL. With the youngest roster in the league, he's made the playoffs 3 years in a row. Like, he's transitioned from a first ballot Hall of Famer in Aaron Rodgers and handcrafted, hand-molded Jordan Love into the MVP caliber quarterback he is. Definitely top 5. Some would say top 3 MVP caliber. So again, I think this is important that Matt LaFleur is not burning bridges. And I think it's a testament to the man, the human being that Jeff Hafley is as well. So let's get you guys all up to date on these coaching staffs changes up to this point. All right. So it's been a whirlwind month for Matt LaFleur and the Packers coaching staff. The departure of Jeff Hafley to the Dolphins triggered a major overhaul, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, which we expected, right? While the Miami poaching has been a storyline, the Packers have responded by bringing in veteran experience with NFL play calling backgrounds. Here is how the staff changes stack up as of late January 2026. So again, we're just going to go position by position. At the top of the list, defensive coordinator, right? Jeff Hafley goes to the Miami Dolphins. You replace him with Jonathan Gannon. Jonathan Gannon, his background and the background of the hire is, I see the fire Joe Barry tweet or comments in there. You guys are hilarious. Jonathan Gannon, former Cardinals head coach and Eagles DC. All right. He orchestrated the NFL's #1 pass defense in 2022. I'm going to have to get the chat off the screen. You guys are so freaking distracting, man. I look over, see something funny, and I start giggling right in the middle of explaining something. So Jonathan Gannon, former Cardinals head coach and Eagles DC, orchestrated the NFL's #1 pass defense in 2022 and led a unit that recorded 70 sacks. Now, he's doing it with 4-man rushes as well. The majority of the time, he's going to blitz occasionally, absolutely. Maybe he blitzes a lot when he comes to Green Bay. That's the thing that people overlook a lot, is the fact that you they act like these coordinators, these play callers are just set in one way. When let me give you an example. When Matt LaFleur came to Green Bay, we ran wide zone boot, wide zone, boot action off of it, right? And then all of a sudden you've seen us press into the RPO game real heavy because that was big with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and across the rest of the league. So we went from wide zone boot to wide zone RPO attached, right? Some of the lookies and things like that, the smokes, the bubbles. So they went with that approach. And then all of a sudden, the year before Josh Jacobs got here, we started to press into duo a little bit. I'm like, man, we're running a lot of duo. And then bang, you sign Josh Jacobs. And then all of a sudden you really press heavy into duo and you start playing a little gap. You start, having some pull in place, things like that. Now, you've always had pin and pull, but this was a little bit different. It's a little more gap centric, right? And then this year, you really pressed heavy into that. You hardly ever see any wide zone boot. The running game struggling, probably need to get back to wide zone boot. But the point is, Matt LaFleur has evolved all through the years, right? And he's maintained a top 10 offense for the most part the entire time. Like I said, even with that quarterback transition. So, again, it's not as cut and dry. People were saying that Jonathan Gannon is just going to play cover 4. I hear cover 4 and I go, which cover 4? Are you talking about spot drop? You talking about match? They kind of leave that part out, right? Well, if you get into match and all of a sudden you go to a trips or a tray set and the safety on the weak side of the formation buzzes the box, now it's technically a cover 3 match, although it could turn into quarters if you have any kind of pre-snap motion that brings one of those trips or tray over to a dub set, and now you have to carry that guy in a match scenario. So it's not as cut and dry as some people are making out to be out there. Just leave it at that. So again, we'll see what he does, but in the past, recorded those 70 sacks in Philadelphia. I seen somebody the other day say, yeah, but you don't have the guns to do that in Green Bay. I'm going, what are you talking about? We got Micah Parsons. You got, look at what we were doing before Micah got hurt. LVN was up around 13% pressure rate at the time. Rashawn Gary finished at 12.5%. He led the league in sacks the first 4 weeks of the season. People forget that, right? So when we get Micah back, things are going to reshift. Now, will Gary be here? Time will tell. So again, just important to mention that. Now, defensive passing game coordinator, secondary coach, this is what changed, right? Derek Ansley, as of right now, is not returning. That sounds pretty definitive. Maybe that's the case. Maybe I'm being having wishful thinking that he'll go out, kind of test the market and potentially come back. Sounds like it's highly unlikely, right? So his replacement, Bobby Babich. This is what's cool about Bobby Babich. Former Buffalo Bills DC. He has a diverse background as a successful linebackers coach. He developed All-Pro Matt Milano and a secondary specialist as well. All right. So what you got is a defensive passing game coordinator and a secondary coach in Bobby Babich, who's had experience and successful experience coaching up linebackers as well. I think that's going to be very, very important. So on the backside, or at the top of the list, I should say, Jonathan Gannon, who's a defensive backs coach background, right? And then he brings in Bobby Babich, who's a secondary coach at heart. He played secondary in college, but also he's had some success coaching linebackers. So I imagine that he's going to be a little more involved with the linebackers too than maybe, say, Derek Ansley was, right? Now, obviously, Sean Dogan was your linebacker coach that just left for Miami. So I love how they pressed into that a little bit, right? Now, we still need a linebacker coach, obviously. Defensive backs coach, Ryan Downer, was actually your DB coach, okay? He goes to Miami. Well, Bobby Babich is now going to be the DB coach. To the best of my knowledge, it's going to be combined role. We'll see if that changes. It's early in the process. He's a DB specialist. So we talked about what he did with Matt Milano and the linebackers in Buffalo. Also, he coached Jordan Poyer, first-team All-Pro, and Micah Hyde, second-team All-Pro, to career best seasons while he was in Buffalo. So he's got a lot of experience, he being Bobby Babich, in coaching DBs as well. It's a home run hire. So on the surface, it sucks that you're losing Derek Ansley, but I think we would all agree this looks like it's an upgrade, right? And again, He was most recently a defensive coordinator up there with Buffalo. So going to be really interesting to see how Bobby Babich, what his role actually is. Because when it comes to linebacker coaches, we talked about Sean Duggan. He goes to the Miami Dolphins. It says to be determined. Current rumors, all right, again, rumors, some of this stuff on the interwebs, current rumors point to Nick Rawlis, though Babich's experience with linebackers provides a safety net during the transition. So normally you'd be going, we got to hurry and get a linebacker coach in here. We got OTAs. We got these things coming up. We want to meet with the team and we want to get everybody together and get on the same page. They're probably meeting with them, via Skype and conference calls as well, getting information out. Hey, here's what we're looking to do. You don't have to panic too much because Bobby Babich has experience coaching linebackers, right? So he can kind of bridge that gap right now, be a safety net during the transition until you get a Nick Rawlis or someone else in-house, right? So I think that's another perk to going with Bobby Babich. If you're going, well, doesn't that take time away from the DBs? It does, but guess what Jonathan Gannon's here to do, right? He's the DB specialist, going to be the play caller, and the DC. Let Bobby Babich kind of bridge that gap with the backers for the time being until we find that replacement for Sean Duggan. All right, and then defensive quality control. This is when it kind of went under the radar a little bit. You guys know the ball king, right? All the rage last offseason during training camp. The ball king, the ball king, the ball king. I know there was all kinds of people excited about it, this and that. It fell flat. Can we be honest about it? It was supposed to be this guy. Let me tell you, he's got these guys amped up about taking the ball away, and it just did not work. Now, is that an indictment on Wendell Davis, who's now with the Miami Dolphins? No. But I think the fact that he went to Miami and Matt didn't try to promote him to any roles. Listen, he's a defensive quality control coach. He tried to get creative with the ball king stuff, right? But let's not sit here and pretend like that was a home run and it worked, right? Because I think we would all agree it did not. It may have had an opposite effect, to be honest with you. They say you get what you emphasize, you get what you focus on. I think that's true 99% of the time. But in this case, maybe the guys were pressing too hard. Maybe it was rather than just go out there and play ball, play your assignment, work on your fundamentals, focus on technique, securing the catch. It's, I got to go, man, we're way behind on this ball king thing. I need to go, I got to go get a pick. I got to go force a fumble. And that leads to a missed tackle, right? That leads to you dropping the pick because you're stressing too much, you're pressing too much, right? So I think there's a little bit of that going on there as well. Now, to be determined with the replacement of defensive quality control, I think you'll get a young up-and-comer. I'm excited to see who they put in that role because typically those type of guys, 3-4 years down the road, you hear about them getting, pretty heavy promotions, right, as somewhere else. So we may be looking at whoever we hire as our new defensive quality control coach 4 or 5 years from now might be the new Bobby Babich, right? It might be the new Jonathan Gannon across the league. So it's fun to kind of follow these things along the way. And just so you understand, those roles are typically filled following the secondary coaching wave. Okay. So again, you're going to probably get linebacker coach in here first, then you'll hear defensive quality control. Who knows? Maybe it'll be a combined role there as well. We'll kind of see how things shake out. Now, the one I'm a little concerned about and probably have no reason to really be, I mention it because I can see it happening, is obviously defensive line coach and Coach Covington, DeMarcus Covington. Will somebody try to poach him, right? Now, obviously, the only thing that would be a promotion, because he's already run defensive coordinator, right? Run game coordinator on defense, would be defensive coordinator. I think all those are pretty much getting filled. So it's highly unlikely he gets a DC job. So he should stay put unless he just wants to leave. And that's another thing about Matt LaFleur. He does not make people stay. If they want to leave and they want to make a lateral move, he will grant it. He doesn't hold that back. He thinks that that's bad business. All right. So again, quick little recap and we'll wrap up here, guys. The head coach of the defense, by hiring Jonathan Gannon, Matt LaFleur opted for experience over potential passing on candidates like Jim Leonard. Gannon brings 3 years of NFL head coaching experience and a scheme-agnostic approach that focuses on player strengths. Obviously, have been a very, very, very one of the successful, one of the most highly touted defensive coordinators in Philly. That's how he got the job in Arizona right off the bat. The Bills connection, the addition of Bobby Babich is a significant get. Despite being a defensive coordinator in Buffalo, he accepted a role in Green Bay to run the secondary and passing game. He is known for an aggressive, takeaway-heavy philosophy, a perfect match for a secondary led by Xavier McKinney. Ball king out, Bobby Babich in, we're going to take the damn ball away. I love it. Offensive continuity. On the offensive side, things remain stable while offensive coordinator Adam Stenovich, some people just threw up on their keyboard, all right, drew interest from the Tennessee Titans. Reports indicate he is likely to return for the 2026 season alongside offensive line coach Luke Buckus. That's the only thing I don't like about this coaching hire so far. I want a new offensive line coach. If Steno wants to do it, great. And then you got to bring in a fresh-minded OC. That's cool. Matt's the offensive coordinator. Let's be honest, guys. He is. So I would like to see some kind of senior assistant for Matt LaFleur. And then I would put Adam Stenovich, even if he keeps the OC role, make sure his hands are all over that offensive line room. And maybe it's already been, and we're not privy to that information. That's why we're kind of at a disadvantage talking about this stuff outside of 1265. But it's just not working with Coach Buckus. Maybe Steno's the problem. I don't know. But until we know Steno is 100% working with the offensive line, it's been reported in the past. Matt's mentioned it in the past. But you still got Buckus on staff. It's hard for me to believe that he's handling everything in the O-line room. So that's kind of where we're at, guys, in terms of the coaching staff. Again, you can find all this information over in our Patreon group, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. Also, you'll notice at the end of every article, you'll see a tab. I'm going to start putting these in collections, okay? So you guys will know any coaching changes, you can find that in that collection tab. Any prospects, you can find that in the collection tab. As we get into top 30 visits a little later in the draft process, you will get all of that there as well, okay? And what that means is you're going to have all the prospects in one collection. You just comb through, search by name, quick little database for y'all. Again, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access, the best way to support what we do here at PTA. I got to get out of here, guys. Let me know in the comments. You're watching this video back later. How do you feel about the coaching hires up to this point? Is there one you disagree with? Do you like them all? Or is there one that's maybe your favorite? How do you feel about Bobby Babich? Are you concerned about losing Derek Ansley? We want to hear from you in the comments. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you don't miss out on future live streams. We'll be back later this afternoon. My name's Clayton. This is PTA. Go Pack Go.
Here we go.
Bye, guys.